I will be ranking all the Rome 2 factions on the tier list for land and siege battles. Because in my previous tier list ranking, which I made 2 or 3 years ago, I was very biased towards sieges, and you guys noticed that. And that is true, and it needs to be updated. And I will give you basically 2 videos in one. So let's start with Arverni.
So Arverni is an overall very average faction. And what do I mean with that? Their units doesn't really stand out, but they're definitely also not lacking.
It got the Chosen Swords and the Longbow Hunters. The Ocean will be focused down in siege battles, and that's why I have to rank it at B tier. And for land battles, I also have to put it at B tier, but very close to the A tier. Because I use Arverni as a comparison for all factions in land battles, because it's right in the middle. It's nice and balanced with the heavy horse, and you can go very different army comps with the Ocean and some more Levy Freeman, or with the more baseline Chosen Swords. Next up we got Pontus. Pontus was in the early ages of Rome 2 a very strong faction, everyone used it. Then the meta really changed towards more barbarian factions, stronger factions, and Pontus wasn't really popular. But Pontus is now back in the picture because of their strong Peltas units and their Furious Spears, together with their cheap Pontic sword. That's why I have to rank Pontus from F or D tier, also towards B tier, just behind Arverni for sieges at least, because everyone knows that the Pontic swords have very low health, and if you shoot them they will die instantly almost, and that is their big weakness. But if you combine it with a ton of Furious Spears and a ton of Peltas, which are very strong for Pontus, you create an insane army to fight against, which is a pain in the ass, especially on defense. For land battles it's also very strong, but the thing is, your Pontic swords will always lose the baseline fight against almost every mid-tier unit, but they will hold up and do some damage. But it doesn't give you a nice feeling if you know you're going to lose the infantry fight, and then you have to compensate with the carry and the missile fight. While Arverni got very cheap and strong slingers compared to Pontus, which got more expensive slingers. So the slinger fight is also not in favor of Pontus,
but the carry fight is in favor of Pontus.
And you can bring horse archers, but you can counter those with a bunch of Levy Freemen in the back lines and the sides to zone off the horse archers. So that's why I have to also rank it behind Arverni, because you will lose the missile and the infantry fight, and it's hard to compensate with carry. You need to be a very skilled player for that. So next up we got Galatia. Galatia is another very strong faction and definitely belongs in the A tier for sieges. It got the Galatian Legionaries, which are an amazing strong unit. Furthermore, you got the Syrian Archers, which is a very strong unit for sieges. So this one definitely belongs in A tier for sieges. For land battles too, you got the Cappadocian cavalry, you win the baseline from Arverni with the Legionaries, and you got the same slingers. And Galatia got also the option to bring the skirmish cavalry. So Galatia is definitely a better all-around faction. You only lack elites, which Arverni can bring. Next up we got Egypt. So Egypt for land battles is not my favorite faction. I actually have to rank it in D or F tier. It got the 4x swords, which is okay. Their carry are shit. They got the citizen cav. I call it citizen because they are shit. They can hold out, but it's not amazing. The Egyptian carry for 60 more. Sometimes I bring them, but most of the times I stick with the citizen carry because they are low armored and a little bit weak in my opinion. They got a good missile force, but their carry is weak and their infantry doesn't really stand out. The only way to pull Egypt off against a strong faction is with the Galatian Royal Guard and some Egyptian infantry together. For sieges it's definitely a little bit stronger with the Cretan archers. The question is, would I pick it over Pontus? Yes, I would definitely rank it over Pontus, but not over Arverni. So next up we got Nabatea, and everyone probably thinks Nabatea is very strong in land battles with their very strong noble cavalry, which costs 800, but I'm really not a fan of him for land battles. And why is that? They get very hard countered against a faction with horse archers or horse skirmishers. Their infantry is not very nice for land battles because they have the armored desert hoplites, which is a very nice unit, but it kills slowly and you can only bring the 500 cost archer units as your missile force, and that makes it a very expensive faction, and that's why I have to rank it at D tier. But the question is it above or behind Egypt? And I would rank it behind Egypt, because with the Galatian Royal Guard option, the cheap Egyptian swords, etc., which Nabatea doesn't really have cheap units with Pila, and that puts it behind Egypt. But probably a bunch of you guys disagree with me. For sieges I like it a lot more. It definitely earns a B tier. The armored desert hoplites in sieges are very strong because they got high armor, high melee defense, high charge bonus, and in hoplite war even stronger. So, and together with the strong missile force, it's a very useful faction to have in sieges, and that's why I have to put it at B tier. And Nabatea really lacks Pila, especially with their hoplites. Because of that I have to rank it behind Pontus, but it really depends what you need in sieges. Next we got Lusitani. Lusitani is an interesting faction. It got the potential to be an A, S or B tier faction, but for sieges I can't even rank it at B tier. It's D or F. There is basically no option to bring Lusitani on attack. You can only bring it on defense, and if you play against semi-competent players, all their archers will be focusing at your unit, and in this way you have to play very different with your units and very careful, which will hurt your teammates' units, and that's why it's just a risky and pain in the ass faction. The Balearic slings are very strong, especially in sieges, but I can't rank it at D. I have to rank it at F because it's just way too risky. For land battles it's a little bit safer, safer because you don't have a lot of skirmish time in land battles. So if you just rush in with your infantry and trying to get around with your cavalry and pin down their missiles, you can do some good damage in land battles. And that's why I have to also put it at D tier, but definitely under Egypt and Nabatea. Getae in land battles is one of my favorite factions. It's easy at A tier. I will think about it to put it in even maybe above Glacia. You can bring 4 Getae nobles easy. You don't need more, you don't need less. They will smash through every baseline there is. Support it with your 4 mercenary axemen. Then bring some cheap cavalry which are pretty nice to have for 550. And you can always go with the horse archers, which is the only barb faction with horse archers and shock cavalry. I usually don't bring the shock cavalry. What I do when I know the enemy can bring skirmish cavalry, I bring 2 archers to counter. I will put them at the sides / back, and if the horse archers are coming close, they will have a larger range and a lot of armor, so they can easily counter the horse archer. And you can always use them to shoot the infantry. Furthermore, you got 2 very strong Peltas units, and that makes it just a very strong faction, but I don't put it above Galatia because it's harder to use, and you don't have cheap slingers, which will put you a little bit in trouble in the missile fight. But it's definitely at A tier, but just behind Galatia. And for sieges, I have to put it at D tier. The elites get focused down, can only bring like 6 of them or something, and that's why it's a very risky faction. The only good thing is they're archers, but again, an expensive unit, and that's why you can only bring a very small army with Getae on attack, and especially defense, and you can get focused down very easy, so that's why it's at D tier. So next up we got Saba. Everyone knows that Saba is a beast of a faction. For land battles, S tier, 100%. No question, no doubt. Camel cataphracts just annihilate units, especially infantry. Cavalry not so much. They can tank a whole Pila volley and none of the camels will die. I don't think I have to explain why it's at S tier in land battles, but it's also S tier in siege battles. You got the Mascot Marauders for 660, which is no money. Amazing strong unit with 36 charge bonus. You can destroy units with just psycho charging. It's just broken for the cost. And the same counts for the Camel cataphracts. And you can bring cheap slingers and you have a full strong army, and it's just very hard to counter and a really pain in the ass to fight against. Next up we got Bactria, and Bactria is a good all-around faction. For land battles it's very nice, but also for siege battles. You got the strong Syrian archers for siege battle, together with your Forex swords, Furious spears, Bactrian hillmen, which are nice and cheap. And you even got the Bactrian peltas, which got 10 ammunition, very armored. So I have to put Bactria above Pontus, but behind Egypt for siege battles. A very strong faction for defense. And for land battles they got to be in the same category as Pontus. These are very similar factions. They got the Bactrian noble cavalry, which are similar to the Cappadocians of Pontus. They got the Forex swords, which will win you the infantry fight against Pontus. Slingers are the same, horse archers also the same, and that's why I have to put it above Pontus, because you will win the infantry fight. And next up we got Sparta. So Sparta is a fun one. It's a hard to use faction for land and sieges, and as you guys know, they don't have sword or pila units, but the one thing they do have is the Royal Spartans. These are literally tanks. They don't die, they kill everything, surrounded, doesn't matter. And for sieges, you can bring a very strong elite force, which is also armored, together with strong archers. And you can bring tortoises with this. And that's why I like it more than Getae. And that's why I have to put it at B tier or top of D tier. And yeah, I will have to rank it at top of D tier, because it's definitely not in the same category of these factions. Their big weakness is slingers and pila. If you slinger and pila the Royal Spartans, that will hurt them a lot because of the armor piercing. But you can counter their archers with your archers, and you can just destroy infantry if you don't get pila. And for land battles, it's definitely harder to use. You got the armored skirmish cavalry, but you can bring some Royal Spartans, but the support units are just trash, absolutely trash. And I just don't often see Sparta win in land battles. But you got the Gorgo skirmishers, don't forget that, always bring those. Those are amazing slingers. Next up we got Kush. I think Kush is definitely a fan favorite for most of you guys, at least in siege battles. You got the armored Shotaus, and the normal Shotaus are also very strong, but just low in armor and health. And that's why most of the people bring just the armored Shotaus, which is just a very strong, almost broken unit. Just look at their melee damage. Their only weakness is their melee defense. But furthermore, they got decent archers, but never bring the expensive archers for Kush. And they got the amazing slaves, which is a very nice supportive unit for their armored Shotaus. So elite spamming for Kush is very strong. And that's why I have to rank this faction above the elite spams of Getae and Sparta. But the question is, would I have Kush or Pontus on defense? Or Kush or Nabatea, Kush or Bactria, Kush or Egypt, Kush or Arverni? I don't know. I would rather have these factions, which got a lot more units, more baseline, more pila, stronger archers, most of them, compared to Kush. And that's why I want to keep it in the D tier category, because it's another elite spam. It doesn't have tortoises, but it's stronger than Sparta for sure. But for land battles, it's definitely harder to use. But there's one secret army, which I always use for Kush, which I'm now going to expose to you guys, and that is this. And you guys probably now think like, this is not even strong. But trust me, me, it is. Your enemy will see a ton of light units, and it's hard to see whether they are slaves or disciples of the epidemic. And once the disciples of the epidemic hit the enemy unit, it will slaughter it in a matter of seconds. You just need 4 of them to melt down the whole baseline, and just use the slaves to support it, and to battle buddy it, and to soak up Pila, etc. And you got your cav just to hold off their cav. Most of the times you don't need any missiles, you just need some carry to hold off their carry, and to soak up some charges of the enemy carry. And trust me, I've used it against very strong players like J-Barbs, which is a very strong land battle player, and I just annihilated him, and nothing he could do. Just surround your enemy with your units. Even a lot of missiles won't counter it, because you just don't have enough time. And that's why I have to rank it at B tier, but still behind all of these factions, because it's hard to use. But if you can pull it off, you can destroy. Next up we got Iceni. Iceni is another very all-around good faction, and it's better than Averni. Because you got the painted warriors, which have the scare effect, which can break the enemy lines. You got decent cheap carry, and your slingers will win the missile fight. So you win the infantry fight against Averni, and you will win the missile fight against Averni. The only problem is their carry, but you can play defensively with Levi Freeman and cheap carry. Carry supported by Levi Freeman is always a W. So yeah, I have to rank Iceni for land battles above Averni, and definitely in the A tier. And yeah, I would rank it even above Getae. But for siege battles, I have to rank it under Averni, because they don't have the option to bring archers, which is very nice for sieges. But these are like very close to each other. For defense, I probably even prefer Iceni. But their low tiers are just a little bit worse than the Celtic warriors. And next up we got Macedon. Macedon is the Averni for land battles, but then for sieges. I compare everything towards Macedon, because I consider Macedon the baseline. Well, you got the 4x swords, you got the Furious Spears, you got decent carry with the sailing carry, you got Cretan archers, you just got everything, but it's not amazing, let's say so. But the good thing is that you have tortoises, which Nabatea, Pontus, Bactria and Egypt don't have. And this is also the reason I put it above all of these factions. They just lack low and high tiers, but the ability to bring tortoises definitely compensates for that. Macedon on land battles is a whole different story. Yes, you got your sailing carry, but you got no low tiers, and you just got the 4x swords. I know you got the Thracian warriors, but they're not really nice. They're a decent counter carry unit, but they're just very expensive. Furthermore, you got decent slingers, but I don't see big killing powers for Macedon. Their sailing carry will need to do the heavy lifting, which is very hard, and that's why I have to rank it behind Nabatea. Next up we got Epirus, and Epirus is another tortoise faction, but it's another very hard to use faction. You got 2 options. You can go with the Royal Pelta spam, together with some Illyrian levies and some good archers, in sieges at least, or you can go with the more balanced out army with some Royal Peltas and the Samnite warriors, together with Furious Spears and some levies, and obviously the good archers. But you're definitely lacking in a lot of areas, and that's why this faction deserves the D tier, but I have to think where it deserves a spot at D tier. I do think it's better than Getae and Sparta. Do I think it's better than Kush? No. Even though you got tortoises, that doesn't make it better than Kush. So that's why it's up here in D tier. For land battles, I like it a lot more. You see me often play Epirus. Probably reminds you of the YouTuber Gormjonir. Some of you guys might know him, because he always played Epirus. Do I think Epirus is better than all these factions? It might be. It will have a rough time against them. But I definitely do think it has a chance. Because for land battles, like 2 elites with Samnites and some cheap units is all you need. And you got the stronger carry, together with decent missiles, and you can bring skirmish carry. People will probably call me crazy for this, but I have to put it at the top of D tier. And next up we got Mesesli. And everyone knows Mesesli is basically a desert roam, but much better in land battles. Why? Well, you got the legionaries, which are strong. You got extremely strong skirmish carry, the armored skirmish carry, which is very strong in combat, but can also use their pila. Furthermore, you got the skirmishers and slingers. You can bring both of them, and you got some cheap units which are also strong with high charge. So it's a very strong all-around faction, and it definitely deserves a spot at S tier. And for sieges, it's the same. You got the skirmishers for 540, which are broken. They are broken, okay? They're much too cheap. They're like a Celtic warrior in combat. And furthermore, you can bring cohort. Their cavalry is very strong and very cheap, as a reminder for land battles. But it deserves also a spot at S tier for sieges. They're nice and armored. They're just a very strong faction. Next up, we got one of my favorite factions, and that's Massilia. And why is it one of my favorite factions? Well, it's just because of one reason, and one reason only, and that is the Furious Spears. The Massilian Furious Spears are such a nice unit. They got 30 charge bonus and better melee attack than normal Furious Spear. And they just destroy in combat if you psycho charge them. And they got Pila. And if you stack them with 4x swords in sieges, it becomes unstoppable. And it's so hard to counter. They can easily get so much value. And that's why this faction deserves an A tier ranking. It's 100% better than Glacia. And everyone probably thinks why. Because Glacia got the Glacian Legionaries, right? I don't care. What can you bring a part of the Glacian Legionaries? Glacian swords? They will die to missiles or Pila or anything. The Furious Spears will destroy. And they got armor. And it will give you a 20 stack of just mid tiers and a ton of Pila. Good luck countering that. I would put it even maybe above Mesesli, but that's maybe a little bit too radical. But for land battles, it's a different story. For land battles, Massilia is not that good. It's at D tier for sure, but the nice thing is they got the Celtic slingers, which is better than the Hellenic slingers. And furthermore, you can bring a lot of mid tiers together with a bunch of carry. You always have too much money, so you have to bring some Hippeus carry, which is alright. And I would definitely prefer Massilia over Egypt and Epirus, because they also have the Levy Freeman. So you can definitely make a strong army with Massilia. So that's why I have to put it at the top of D tier. So before making this tier list, I played every faction in land battles at least. Because in siege battles, I already know I played every faction a ton of times. In the beginning, I thought Nervii isn't that strong in land battles, but trust me, it is. It is very strong. You don't have to spam the Fierce Swords. You can just bring a few together with 2 or 3 Oathsworn and some Celtic or Levy Freeman. Together with some Mighty Horse and Slingers, you can build a very strong army. The Oathsworn will win against the Getae elites. The Fierce Swords will win against the Ex-Warriors. And Nervii got Levy Freeman compared to Getae. They don't have Horse Archers, but I believe they got Skirmish Carry. And that's why I have to actually rank it above Getae, even though Getae is one of my favorites. For you guys, just try Nervii out for land battles. It's very nice. But Nervii for sieges is another story. It's another elite spam army. And the elite spam army aren't just the meta in 2024. Everyone knows how to use Pila, and everyone knows that you just have to focus down the elites. And the Fierce Force are also very vulnerable to missiles. They got the Gallic Hunters, which is a nice guerrilla unit. But the question is it better than Getae? And I would say, I don't know. Would I have it above Epirus? In a 1v1, Epirus would have a decent chance with all their first spears and missile force to break down Nervii. And because of that, I have to rank it at the bottom of D tier. Next up, we got Erevaci. So Erevaci got the Scutaria infantry, which is a strong unit, a very strong cost-effective unit for 620. Their nobles are very risky for the price, and that's why you're forced to bring the Iberian swords with the Balearic slingers. Balearic slingers are amazing. Would I have it above Nervii, Getae, Sparta, Kush, Epirus? Yes. Would I have it above Nabatea? Maybe. It just depends what you need. But yeah, just as a reminder, they don't have archers, and that makes them just a little bit riskier. So I have to put it behind Nabatea, but this faction has the potential to be like amazing strong. Like Erevaci is or behind Nabatea, or it's behind Iceni. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, but I have to rank it behind Nabatea. Erevaci for land battles is a very nice faction. I will put it at B tier, because your infantry is just so strong, and you got the Scutaria carry to support it. You got cheap spearmen for 200, which is also pretty strong in combat, and you got some scare units. And I definitely think Erevaci will win against Massilia, Epirus, Egypt. But I also think it's easier to use. Looking at what we have left, we got all the very strong factions stacked up at the end. So that will change the tier list a ton. But first we got Odrysian Kingdom. Odrysian Kingdom, F tier, no doubt. They don't have the strong slingers of Lustani, and their infantry is just way too risky. I won't even explain this. It just deserves a F tier. For land battles, it's definitely stronger. Definitely stronger than Sparta. It's still very risky, but their units are all very strong against carry and infantry. And because of that, I have to put it at D tier, but still behind Lustani. Next up, we got Parthia. So for Parthia, you got the Parthian swords, which are basically the same as the 4x. You can bring the slingers, but you can also bring the 400 cost archers with precision shot and 14 missile damage. It just depends what you like for land battles. For sieges, you always have to bring the 400 cost archers. Furthermore, they got the Cataphracts, which is a very nice unit. For Parthia, I like to bring this army, and this is a pretty strong army. I do think in land battles, this faction can beat a lot of factions. It's still at B tier though. The question is where at B tier. Can it defeat Erevaci? Well, their strong carry and their strong missiles counter Erevaci low armored units very good, so yeah. Does it counter Kush? I would say it's better than Kush. Is it better than Pontus and Bactra? I wouldn't really say so. Even though they got the Cataphracts, I just prefer Pontus and Bactra. They're just all around better, and that's why I have to put it at B tier, behind Pontus. For sieges, is a different story. It is strong. Is it great? No. You stuck with your 7 or 8 Parthian swords. It depends on what the rules are. You got some nice archers for 400 cost, but you definitely lack in the infantry department. On attack, these factions are definitely better than Parthia, but if you look at defense, which this faction is only used for, I would have to rank it at B tier, because on defense it is still strong, and I have to rank it behind Erevaci. Next up, we got Pergamon. Pergamon, as you guys know, is probably one of my favorite factions. Their Agema spears are broken. They're just straight up broken. They got 5 Pila rounds, and they're strong in combat with expert charge defense. It just makes this unit amazing, and you can combine it with some Glacian swords or even more first spears, or just the Pick Peltas, which are also broken, and that puts this faction on defense but also on attack in A tier. But I have to be reasonable, and that's why I've put it behind Galatia. But trust me, Pergamon can destroy if you use them right. For land battles, it's a different story, guys. I have to be straight up. It's F tier. Their Agemas are useless in land battles, so you're stuck with Glacian swords, Hippeus carry or something like that. And yeah, the faction for land battles is just not great. So it definitely deserves a spot at F tier, but above Sparta, because they got the nice low tiers. But even Sparta would have a decent chance against Pergamon. Next up, we got the faction Rome. So everyone knows Rome is a straight up S tier faction. It got tortoises, it got strong mid-tier units, and strong archers. Because you can bring tortoises, and because it's just a very strong faction, it's even above Saba and Mesesli. And I don't think I need to explain why Rome is at S tier. Just pick the Evocati cohorts with some veterans and with the strong archers, and I have to say good luck fighting that. For land battles, I have to also rank it at S tier, above Mesesli, but I wouldn't put it above Saba, because Saba definitely counters Rome with their strong carry, because Rome doesn't have any shoot wall, and the cataphracts will destroy the units if they don't have shoot wall, and the mascots will do a decent job against the legionaries, or you can just psycho charge them with the cataphracts. The only trouble would be the strong archers and maybe some cavalry. Next up we got the cav factions, and to be honest, I don't want to rank them. I would just straight up put them at F tier, because I just don't want to see these factions used in multiplayer battles. Because it isn't fun to use and it isn't fun to fight against. And fun is definitely important. So yeah, just don't bring these factions. Next up we got Armenia. And Armenia in land battles is basically the same as Parthia, but with better mid-tiers because of the Cardly X-Men. And that is also the only reason why I put it above Parthia. And for sieges is a different story. I do think that Parthia is better on defense, but Parthia is almost not usable on attack. And Armenia is, because you can bring the X-Men. And because of the option that you can bring Armenia on attack, I will have to put it above Parthia. But just remind this, Parthia is better on defense, Armenia is better on attack. Alright, now we're getting towards the big boy factions. Now let's start off with Seleucid. Seleucid can bring tortoises. So it's a tortoise faction. It has strong Syrian archers. They got fire spears. They got 4x swords. They got elites. Is it above D tier? 100%. But the question is where in B tier deserves it a spot. It's somewhere here around Macedon. Seleucid got Hillman, and that's why it has more options than Macedon. And that's why I have to rank it above Macedon. That was easy ranking. And for land battles, Seleucid is bad. The only very strong army that Seleucid can bring is the carry spam supported with the elephant spam. I showed this in one of my previous videos. And I got a lot of comments that you guys used this army and destroyed everyone. So it is a strong army, it is a little bit counterable, but I don't want to rank a faction just based on one strategy, and that's why I have to rank it somewhere up here. It got the median carry, which is nice. Actually, because of that, I have to put it at the top of D tier. Yeah, I'll put it up here. Alright, now we got the big boys. Suebi A tier, bomb. Above Pergamon and above Glacia. Is it above Massilia? No. I think Massilia can beat Suebi in a 1v1. Can Suebi beat Glacia in a 1v1? It definitely could be, especially on defense, but also on attack. But Glacia does have the better archers. And for land battles, A tier, bomb. Above Mesesli, easy. Just that one ability, which will give your army an insane charge bonus, makes this faction an S tier. You got the Suebi Swordmasters, together with the Club Levy. Even some Bloodsworn could be very strong in land battles. You got the broken slingers. Trust me, these slingers are broken. Don't shoot them because it's not worth it. They just don't die. They have an insane missile block chance. And it does have a chance to beat Rome actually. But it's definitely harder to use. But if you pull that charge off, yeah, I'm gonna put it above Rome. So next up we got Syracuse, which is a interesting faction for land battles. It's somewhere in the D tier, and I will put it behind Macedon. They got whack carry. They have Samnites though, which is a positive point. The carry just hurts them a lot compared to Macedon, and they got no low tier. So that's why it's up there, and it will also have a very hard time against Lusitani. So it might be even behind Lusitani, but I will give it a benefit of the doubt. But for siege battles, it's a very strong defensive army. You can also even bring it on attack. With the hoplites and the forex swords and the samnites, you can bring a broken mid-tier army. And you got Blerick slingers, which in defense are just so strong. I prefer them over Erevaci. To be honest, I also prefer Erevaci over Nabatea. So I think I have to put it like this. Would I bring it above Pontus? You can do more with Pontus, more Pila, more interesting stuff. But you can bring more mid-tiers which are strong for Syracuse. And Syracuse is also definitely bringable for attack. I will even put it above Pontus. Next up we got Tylis. So Tylis for land battles, S tier, 100% above Mesesli. Their mid tiers will smack the legionaries. They got amazing strong skirmish carry. They got the good slingers which Mesesli doesn't have, and you can bring some noble carry to support it. But I wouldn't put it above Rome. Tylis for siege battles, S tier. Infantry is just so annoying to fight against. You got peltas, you got slingers, you can do whatever you want. You got Gallophrasian infantry if you want. It's just a pain in the ass. And you can even bring it on attack, but on defense it's just broken. And I would even put it above Mesesli. But Mesesli is also good for attack, so that's why it's behind Mesesli. And next up we got Athens. And Athens is one of my favorite ones. They got Cretan archers, they got fire spears, they got hoplites, the 4x hoplites, they got the 4x swords, but they lack obviously high tiers, but that's not a big problem for me. The only problem is that they lack low tiers. So Hillman would be very nice to have, but to compensate that they got a lot of mid tiers. And that's why it's above Egypt, because it got tortoises, and it's above Seleucid, because it got a lot of mid tiers. Is it even above Iceni or Averni? Yes, I would say so, because of the tortoises and the mid tiers. But for defense defense, Arverni and Iceni are just so much better, and that's why I have to put it just behind Iceni and Arverni. Athens for land battles is trash. I just don't want to talk about his faction for land battles. It's the same as Syracuse, but without the Samnites. So yeah, definitely under Syracuse. Next up we got another big boy, and that's literally Boy. Boyai. Is it stronger than Tylis in siege battles? Well, their mid tiers are a little bit better, but they're also riskier because they got less armor. Low tiers are the same, high tiers are the same. Boyai got archers, Tylis got slingers but better peltas. It's a difficult one. Some people would say Boyai is better, some people would say Tylis is better. I prefer Tylis because it's safer. In siege battles, there's so much pila, so much missile fire, where armor is just so important. And that's why Tylis is just better than Boyai. And for land battles, it's another close call between Boyai and Tylis. Tylis got the skirmish cavalry, Boyai got the heavy horse. What would I rather have? Tylis baseline will win against the Boyai baseline, but the heavy horse are just so nice. For the average person, Boyai is probably easier to play, but the tribal warriors are also even cheaper. I have to go for Tylis. Tylis above Boyai. Carthage. Carthage is a tortoise faction and it's strong. It can bring a ton of mid tiers, more mid tiers than Glacia, so it's definitely at A tier. It has strong archers, better archers than Glacia. It's more useful than Suebi and more useful than Massilia, even though I love Massilia. Carthage is just a very strong faction and definitely an A tier faction. The only thing it lacks is free spears and low tier. For land battle, it's a difficult one. It's definitely stronger than all these factions, so I have to put it at B tier. The question is it stronger than Erevaci? Maybe, maybe not. It depends how you can use your missiles, because the cavalry is the same basically. Carthage is more versatile than these two factions, so yeah, I have to put it behind Armenia and Parthia. Sumeria is another bad faction. You fully depend on your horse archers, your infantry is just trash. It's hard to pull off a victory with Sumeria. It just takes a lot of effort. So for land battles, it's at F tier, and I would put it behind Sparta even. And for siege battles, it's also at F tier, but behind Lusitani and above Odrysian Kingdom. Next up we got Caucasus. Caucasus is a nice faction. A lot of people like it because they got the nice hoplites. They got the Cardly Axemen, which I really like. They got decent charge and are pretty good in combat. And you can combine the Cardly Axemen with the normal Axemen, but you can also bring noble hoplites. The meta previously was to bring the Cardly Axemen with the normal Axemen, but people are now shifting to the beautiful looking Colchian nobles, which I like to see. And this deserves a spot at B tier. The question is where? Caucasus got archers compared to Syracuse, so it's better on attack. On defense, Syracuse is better though. Is it better than Bactria? I wouldn't say so, but it's still a very strong faction. And I think where it's at over here is a pretty good place. So Caucasus is a similar faction to Parthia, Armenia, Pontus. Caucasus got the best mid tiers of all of these. They got the horse archers just like all of these factions. Their noble horse is almost the same as these factions. They got the hillman, and furthermore it's just very similar. Cavalry will lose against the Pontus and the Bactrian cavalry. I would say it's better than Parthia. Is it better than Armenia? Well, for Armenia you got the cataphracts, but for Caucasus you can bring more infantry. And yeah, it depends. If you're good with cavalry, bring Armenia. If you're good with infantry, bring Caucasus. That's what I would say. And last but not least, we got RDI. And RDI isn't amazing, to be honest. Cavalry is trash. Your missiles are trash. The two very strong points of RDI, at least in land battles, are the level 3 spears with counter cavalry tactics and pila, and the noble hoplites, but they kill very slow. I would say it's better than all these factions. Would I say it's better than Odrysian Kingdom? Well, in a 1v1, RDI would do decent with the expert charge defense, but if Odrysian Kingdom goes with a lot of skirmishers and peltas, RDI has a big trouble. So Odrysian Kingdom is more versatile, and that's why I have to put it under the Odrysian Kingdom. But for siege battles, it's a lot better. The Illyrian noble hoplites are just so strong for the price, and in sieges, armor is just much more valuable. You can combine them with the level 3 spears, so for sieges, it deserves a spot at B tier. Well, these are the attacking factions, Macedon, Seleucid, and Athens, and I will have to put it behind those. And there you go, this is the tier list ranking of sieges and land battles. It's quite different. You can definitely see which factions are the worst and which factions are the best. And this is way more accurate, more up to date to 2024. And let me know in the comments if you agree with this tier list. And don't forget to smash the like button if this helped you and if you enjoyed this video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.